That's because he got on.
All right. Look, man. I'm back, baby. I'm back at the rebrand, but I got my friends here, so I gotta, open the shirt up, show some chest and some chains, baby. But hey, it's the big baby. I'm back. What's happening, Chew?
What's happening? How y'all doing?
What's happening, Wayne?
What up?
To the young Queen Candice, how are you doing today with your seasoned self?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm here, baby. Rick, welcome back. We ain't seen you over a year.
What up, dog? I'm back like I never left.
Ah.
But nah, man, it's good to have y'all back here. The streets was asking about us, and we had to deliver. But whatever that cracking is, man, y'all start muting y'allself if y'all ain't talking here. Because we can't be having all this crackling. But anyways, happy to have y'all back here on the pod because, there's definitely some things that we got to talk about. We got some stuff to hit. But before we get into anything, for one, I left the island a year ago. Yesterday, I left the island. So I think it's important to just commemorate the I don't know what we're gonna commemorate, but fuck it, I left the island a year ago. But Candice, you just dropped season salt. Please let my viewers know what season salt is, just so that we can get seasoned.
Not so you can get seasoned.
Well, we want the salt.
Well, actually, I think you already have both. I'm gonna tell you why.
Tell me why.
So the season salt is a platform that my friend DeAndrea and I started. We've been friends for about 16 years. Both of us are actually headed to school for a master's in divinity in the fall. So I'm going to the Princeton Theological Seminary, and she's going to do divinity school. And the basis of the platform, yeah.
Hell man.
Hey, Candice, you gotta let them know what their official title is. Bro. The one and only trap spiritual therapist.
What?
The one and only trap spiritual therapist. Why you act like you don't already know this?
Whatever. So anyway, our objective is to speak directly to millennials, and then specifically Black millennials, because being in that group ourselves, it just feels like a lot of ministers kind of try to reach us by suggesting that we have to drop our culture entirely in order to follow Jesus, whatever that means in whatever fashion they think that's appropriate. And we just see that as counter to what we've seen in Jesus' teachings, especially because he specifically tried to reach his own disciples, those who were fishermen, by appealing to them in language that they could understand. And so that's basically what we're looking to do. We'll be doing virtual studies on Instagram and just having conversations. That's pretty much what it is. So the season salt comes from being the salt of the earth by being a follower of Christ, and then having extra seasoning because Black.
Flavor.
I like it. It's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with a friend, and we were getting into some of our frustrations with the clergy because they don't necessarily know how to meet us at our level. They always want to speak down to us from the pulpit. They don't want to be in the streets with the people. But then also, I just think it's important to approach people that way. And I almost posted something today that a lot of y'all be saying, "What would Jesus do?" But you're acting like the Pharisees. Y'all want to be in the church, but Jesus was in the street.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's basically where we're coming from.
Talk to him. How did this come about, Ken?
That's pretty much. We try to be with the folks because we feel like the folks. So holler at us, follow us, get into one of these studies one time, or just have a convo with us when we post.
So if people want to follow
You'll
you,
enjoy it.
if people want to follow you, where they gotta follow? What's the page?
You said what's the handle if they want to follow?
Yeah.
It's at the seasoned salt. At the seasoned salt. Did y'all know, by the way, that Lowry's is actually Lowry's seasoned salt and not seasoning salt? Blacks just made that up.
Didn't care.
You also, when you're being direct, it's specific. So I can understand that.
All right. We're done.
All right, so let's just transition. Let's go to our first topic, man. So obviously, we're here to talk about what's been going on in the country as of late, and we've just seen countless times that our people have been killed by law enforcement or by law enforcement. And it started a conversation. It started riots. It started protests. It started looting. It started so many different things that has the country finally paying attention to this issue. It seems like they're finally taking us seriously as Black people and trying to hear our needs. And I want to say, for one, for everybody who's stepping up and taking a stance, thank you. But also, I'm not too impressed because it's popular to take a stance right now, and it's unpopular to stay quiet. Like, you're wrong if you're not doing anything. And by doing something, you're just following the status quo. You're being a sheep, so to speak, right? But again, we'll take the support, and hopefully this turns into the changing of hearts and minds. And I've been hearing like, this is not America. We're better than this. We are a people who look out for those who've been hurt. No, that is not true. This is America. What we're seeing has revealed itself throughout our history. So I don't understand where the confusion is of what's going on. So I think that this is America because we were built on these values of taking land from people, taking people from their land to build up the infrastructure. And if we really want to get down to it, our even anthem itself has some very nasty racial overtones to it. So why are people shocked now that this is really America?
Who's actually shocked though? When you look at the size of what's going on, right? who's or saying that they're actually shocked? We're not shocked because it's the same shit we've been dealing with.
We heard Donald Glover last summer. This is America came out, right?
Nothing new. It's just I feel like right now this is steps that have been taken right now in our time. It hasn't been the way that it is right now. So we've done more to get attention from other people than we've done before. We've marched, we've done all this, we put people's names on t-shirts, we've raised a lot of noise, but people are rioting and stuff now. So now you're actually getting the attention of folks because it's starting to affect them now. It's not just us, it's starting to affect the other side now.
I tell you the truth. I think I don't know if it's fully that we're doing more now. I think if we slowly walk back through history, or maybe we go quickly, right? We hop a few decades backwards. It's not a slow process. If we think about that civil rights movement, they were just over a year.
Right.
Just over a year of making sure that they systematically made their presence known to the economy, that they systematically made their stance known to the people. And that was through whatever beings, dogs, marches, protests, through the getting up a little earlier in the morning to take their fellow person of color to work. That was just that movement. And if we keep walking it backwards years and years and years, it was more and more and more action that was being taken. So I think if we push back all the way to the 1800s, right? We think about the Mutiny Act of 1807. Snapshot on it is that's where essentially Britain came around. This was around the War of 1812, Battle of 1812. Essentially, when they were bombarding Boston, or correction, when they were bombarding Baltimore's harbor, the British made a statement in there, and they said, "Hey, if you decide, people of color, to turn your back on America, we will give you the freedom that you're looking for." And in so doing, that Mutiny Act of 1807 is something that became real popular, where people said, I will not tolerate to be oppressed. I will seek my freedom as a person, and I will push forward and go from there. And AC mentioned some of the pieces that are in the Star Spangled Banner, and that third verse that no one seems to converse or mention or reference. It's towards the closing of that stanza. It's a line in there that says, "No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave." There's some key statements in there that are extremely relevant to us, and one of them is "over the land of the free." That message that was written, it was for the free man that was there. It wasn't written towards the slaves of the time. And when we consider the language that he used when Key put this thing in a writing, mind you, now he put this thing in a writing as a poem first, right? That's where it started. He was like, "Hey, let me do a little poetry." That was common in the era. He wrote it in to the same tempo or to the same lyrics as what a lot of people would use in a bar as a drinking song. Over time, it grew its own flavor, and people sing that first verse in their own way. But that language that he was writing towards, that portion that I referenced, "No refuge could save the hireling or the slave," that was specifically towards the fact that by the time they made that push up, the British made that push up to Maryland, and they were trying to bombard Baltimore, they figured out a way to be successful. But getting up to that point, the people of color were gaining their freedom. They were turning their back on America. They were joining the British. They were going to other lands to be free in accordance with that Mutiny Act, and success was born through that movement. But when they got to Baltimore, that's where that success went south, and that's where a lot of them ended up losing their lives. And that message that Key put in there, when Francis Scott Key put this thing into effect, that message that was there, "No refuge could save the hireling and slave," that's exactly what he was alluding to, was the fact that the slaves, the people that said, "Hey, I want to go get my freedom," a lot of them lost their life in that specific bombardment. So just throwing that out there, that when we look at the history of the Star Spangled Banner, we look at this message, it wasn't all sweet, it wasn't all pretty, but we as people of color have been battling time in and time out this oppression for an extremely long time, man. This isn't a new thing at all.
No, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. When I was saying we're doing more now, I just mean within the last few years, not over time, just within like the recent years.
So, we talk about that, and there's an argument that desegregation did more to hurt us than to help us. And I agree that desegregation did give us a seat at the table. But what it also did was it stripped us from being forced to own our own and support our own. And then we started to assimilate into mainstream culture. And granted, we didn't assimilate fairly or equally as we should have based on our merits. But with that, we also lost a lot of our ownership because we chose for inclusion.
So what was the other option?
Okay.
That's my question.
The other option is, again, surface level, the other option is you maintain your business, you maintain your independence, and you see how that works for you. But if we're going to be rational, we're going to be practical here, we know that there's an argument for, well, the industry that we're competing with can either run us out of business by charging lower prices, or they can just buy us out outright, and then we have nothing, and we may not even have a job to go to because they bought us out and replaced us with their own people.
Okay.
But again, I'm not the person who says desegregation was the worst thing in the world, but I do think that with desegregation, we did lose a lot of ownership because we accepted inclusion. And I don't know if that was the right route long term, although short term, it was good for us to have a seat at the table.
Okay.
Mm.
I can see that perspective. I'm a person that's for bringing people together. That's my stance on this nation. I would much rather have the nation stand together hand in hand and be able to see the humanity in every person, regardless of how active their melanin is. That's my going in stance. That's my going out stance. The journey to get there, the journey to get there varies. I support the idea of the Black Wall Street picture, right? I understand the value of the dollar. I understand the dollar coming in and the rate at which it comes in and out of the African American community versus the rate it goes out of other communities. Um, I'll consider the Jewish community first. If you think about the way that their income goes, they spend internally with each other more often than not. And then eventually their dollar will leave and they will expand out to other markets. So I see that, I think about that, and I ask myself, okay, where's the value in that for us as people of color? And then how does that impact the nation? And I think if we took that same approach and tried to isolate our dollar in that regard, we'll grow wealthy internally, but I think the nation as a whole suffers. And I don't know if that's in our I would imagine that's not in our best interest. I'll consider the Jewish.
So for me, I'm conflicted because I look at our community especially, and I think that we more so than any other race have fought for inclusion in the mainstream American community, into mainstream America. And in some ways, I think it's benefited us. But also, I think that, again, back to us losing a certain sense of ownership because short term, it looks better, it pays better. And the idea of unity, one nation under God, right, indivisible, right? The idea of that sounds so good. But I think we're the only group of people who are actively fighting for that when no one else is doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I can holistically, I don't think I can agree with you in that from a full scale on perspective. I think there are some people that are making that same fight. I believe we're all fighting differently. But I think there's some other people out there throughout this nation that are making that same battle.
So we're kind of already at the point of like, how do we get here, and where do we go to next? So, what exactly are y'all's recommendations of what we do to either build some form of unity or actually carve out our own niche in American culture that satisfies us?
It's tough, bro. And it's tough because a lot of this stuff starts within the household, right? I'm the way I am because of how I was raised, right? I wasn't raised to hate people because of how they look, regardless of the differences that we have, and that amplify from there. So we can sit here and we can have these conversations, but if people aren't having, if the other side, they aren't having these conversations with each other, they aren't, or they're raising their kids a certain way. Like you don't just wake up and you're racist one day, or you're prejudiced one day. That's learned behavior. You've seen it, so you're doing it because you've seen it. So we can have these people can come out, they can make all these statements, they can do all this, but at the end of the day, what are you doing at home? What are you teaching your kids? What kind of conversations are you and your family having? Because you can say whatever you want to try to make us believe it. Roger Goodell came out and made the statement, well, we got it wrong. Yo, we know you got it wrong. We said that 4 years ago. Like, what you know was wrong. Like, but I don't think that's genuine. Personally, I don't think it's genuine. But at the same time, and we've all had this conversation before, I'm not one of the people I'm not about this council culture because I think people can change and I believe in people. But I'm not gonna fall for every apology that comes out because you got backlash for what you said.
You've been quiet, Candice.
I have. I feel many ways about this, as we all do. I think the first thing that's on my mind and on my plate to do is to just process all of this as it comes and make sure that I'm actually processing it and not just letting it sit in me. I think letting things that other people try to put in you or do successfully put in you just kind of sit is how we get to the point of uncontrolled rage. Regardless of what ethnicity we are, I think that's a human sort of response. I just think that's the root of unreasonability. So on my end, that's what I'm doing, is just processing and trying to understand deeply my own stance and trying to understand the stance of people who I think differently from. And I'm not saying that in a way that's like, let me see why someone might think Black people are trash. I would like to understand that, but there's nothing that I'm going to uncover that's going to make me change towards their idea. So I don't want to give that impression, but I just think it's important to know your opponent, even if it's someone who is your show enough enemy. And speaking of show enough enemies, I would like to go back to the question of how we got here, because I think that is the real place of solution in this situation. Because how we got here was by ship. That's how we got here, actually.
Yeah, we took a cruise. We said, hey, I want to go see the new world. And we hopped on the ship and we came out to go find the new world, right?
And no one was looking for a vacation.
What was that quote in that post I sent you from my high school, Candice? The social agreement that we made to be citizens.
Let's all remember the social agreement we made to be Americans.
Hey, can I talk about your high school real quick?
You can.
How can a school named after Strom Thurmond, one of the most famous Southern racists in United States history, right? They maintain the name, and if I remember correctly, your mascot is the Rebels, right?
Yeah. So it's iffy, right? So they had when I was coming up, it was this big thing about the mascot being the Rebels, right? Obviously, everybody know. Well, people that know of Strom Thurmond know he was racist. I'll be right back.
Food.
So anyway,
while he's gone, let me just finish my thought, and then y'all can get back to Strom.
Go ahead, Candice.
Because I'm not just settling on the fact that we came here on ships and y'all shouldn't have brought us here. That's not how I feel. Well, I do feel like that. But what I feel now that we are here is that we've never been in a space where we can all, people of Black heritage and, well, of African heritage and European heritage in the United States, I think are now in a place where we have the most opportunity possible, since we've all been here together, to discuss the root of our issues. I feel like we're dealing with symptoms right now, and we have deep roots that need to be addressed, and they never have been. I know that people have given their lives trying to get to the point of a root cause discussion. I just don't think we've ever been able to make it there. And the root is that a group of people were brought to this country forcibly and against their will, and that's a different arrival than those who came with the idea of prosperity or hope. And at the point when the forcibly brought group of people were released from their contract that they had no buy-in on, then there was no sort of reparation in order for them to proceed forward and be able to establish any sort of decent life. And I don't think that there was an idea that when they were released from their contract, there was still not a desire to be a merged society. And there never has been holistically. So as long as we're living in that sort of space where there are still a group of people who legit just don't want Black people here or want them to remain subjugated, this is not changing unless policy makers who have high impact say otherwise.
So I agree with like 98% of what you said, right? Mm-hmm. And I agree with the policy makers piece to a certain extent, because I think policy does need to reflect changes in society. And I think that starts back from documents that govern the country, right? But again, not to get too specific there, but I struggle to call it a contract, for one, because Strom Thurmond and them, y'all, Strom Thurmond rebels, we know what y'all stand on and what y'all were built on. Maybe a lot of the people around here don't understand exactly what that means, but I know how that hits for me, because my high school was the Colonel, and it was a Civil War Colonel, and they changed the name stayed the same, but the mascot changed from the old Miss Rebel Colonel, same thing, to just the C in cross sabers. All right, whatever.
So what's crazy, right? Because people like to throw up that, you know, that was a long time ago. When my parents were coming up, the high school that I went to, they were still having separate proms. The white people did their prom at one place, and the Black people did their prom at another place. That wasn't that long ago.
My mom, she started out at a segregated schools.
Right. So you know what I'm saying? But it's that you can say it was a while, but that wasn't that long ago. In the grand scheme of things, that wasn't that long ago. So, and we was talking about the Strom Thurmond name a little minute ago. So when I was actually in high school is when it was a big deal about changing the name, right? So they got a new mascot, but the actual name, they're still the Strom Thurmond Rebels. But the new mascot is a blue tick hound dog, which is a fucking hunter's dog. That was hunting.
What's rebellious about that?
Right, exactly. So what really changed? You know what I'm saying?
Optics, and I think that's the problem.
If you know much about, you know, stuff in the South, the name Strom Thurmond, people know his story, or they know of his story. You know, racist guy. And once he died, they found out that he had a mixed daughter, and at that point she was like 50, 60 years old, and they had just came out. So it's not black. It's not black. It's black and white as people want to make it seem. And
I put this. I thought we were going to hit it a little bit later, right?
I see you can.
And the question that I ask you all is, what is the responsibility of education outside of the history books? What is the responsibility of education outside of the classroom? Because we're getting taught a certain storybook education that's not true. And, you know, I used to look at it from just the Black point of view, like they're not teaching us our history. Well, at the same time, when they're not teaching us our history, they're not teaching anybody else our history or their history or any history that is uncomfortable and true. So we grow up, and I mean we as in Americans in the typical American school system, we grow up with a false sense of what history is. We grow up with a false sense of how this country was built, and it's painted in a way that makes us not necessarily love our Black leaders the way that we should, our Black inventors the way that we should, but also it raises white people to not respect us for our contributions, because They're not aware of our contributions. Like, it's on us to learn our Black history in February and then be the one or two Black people in the class who can explain to white people Black history. Hey, I'm getting the same history that you getting, and my parents probably got the same history that your parents got. So how am I supposed to explain Black history to you? I can explain Black today to you easily because I'm living it. But at 16, or hell, let me take it back to being 9, 10 years old. Okay, I've read a bio on Martin Luther King, but that's not Black history. If I'm not getting Black history properly fed to me throughout my entire life, and I shouldn't call it Black history, I should call it history as it happened, not history as it's written. Okay, if we're not having those conversations, if that's not put in school, then everybody grows up ignorant and they just think we're stupid when it's like, no, the chair you sitting in, somebody who looked like me invented that. That traffic light, that peanut butter, whatever it may be, we have buy-in just like you had buy-in. We had the contribution, but you just erased our name, slapped your name on it. But then you expect us to be the arbiters of everything that's Black history when it's like, no. This is the history of your country, and you should want to know about it just as much as I want to know about it, because it's more than just important to know it because you're Black. You should know it because it builds your thought process. You have perspective. You have context of what actually happened, and you know it accurately. So we know the schools are dropping the ball here. So what can we do, or what should we do to properly educate ourselves and those around us on history?
I think it comes in a multitude of fashions, man. And in today's generation, since we are extremely microwave for the vast majority in how we want to receive information, it's the packaging of information that really drives how we're going to comprehend things. So there's a New York-based author and artist. She does a lot. She writes, she draws a lot. She's a talented young lady. Last name Harris, and her first name I believe is Vash. It's like Bashti, something to that effect. I'm not good with enunciation, but I've purchased a couple of her books, and those are the things that I use in order to paint the pictures for my kids within the house, right? African American, men of color, women in history. And she has a plethora of different types of messages that are relevant to how our African American community came about. As far as how we go about teaching it, unfortunately, man, most of us have to go and learn it. It's hard to teach something that you aren't interested in. And I think that a lot of the parents, late 30s, early 40s, there's a strong portion of them, they're too busy in their own design to sit down and learn new concepts and then package them and teach them to their children. I think about the past 2 or 3 months being here in New York, the battle alone of just getting a kid through the curriculum in school is already attacked. So imagine the idea of taking that curriculum and then going out and trying to create and add some more information to teach it to our youth today. Unless if you have a true passion for it or a knack for it, it's going to be a battle.
Or so, just a question for you, Wayne. Are you having these conversations with your children? Like, obviously, you're dealing with school or whatnot, and they're out of school right now. How do you how do you handle having these conversations with them? Because they're getting taught one thing in school. Obviously, there's more to the actual story. So how do you have this? You don't want to overload your kids, but you want to inform them about this. What's going on?
When it comes to children, I believe they're some of the most resilient human beings around. So I'm not too concerned about overloading, overwhelming when it comes to knowledge, right? What I struggle with and what I work on is I try to make sure that I say, listen, this is what you need to know to pass this test at school. This is what they want you to walk away understanding to pass this test. And passing that test for the purpose of your grade point average and being nominated, selected to go to certain schools here in New York as you continue to progress from middle school and high school, it's important. So you need to make sure you position yourself for that. The battle that I have is on the other side where I open my mouth and I go down this 20-minute rant about, but this is what really happened. And then my child sitting there looking at me like I got something growing out of my face because I went completely away from what the textbook is talking about. So what I've done is I've leaned towards the writings of Vashti and a lot of her books, Little Legends and stuff like that, in order to sit down in the evening and just give that story time narrative for what it is that is going on in history and allow them to connect the dots on their own. I think right now my oldest child is working through the American Revolution conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's hell on wheels as far as what they're teaching and what I'm trying to package up for the why. Because I
Right.
roll over, I look at the news, I have that playing in the background, and when you start listening to the similarities, they're like, oh, these are bad people for all this rioting and looting and things that they did. And then you look at what's happening as far as why they were doing the same thing. And the only thing that's really different is the narrative.
And you know something funny about that, Chew, and it's that, but it goes a little bit deeper, and it goes to a conversation we had right before we went on, and you talked about how I was so upset at Charlemagne, right, but have so many similarities, and but I'm not Charlemagne, so I can criticize Charlemagne for doing what he did, but because it's not me, and it's similar to where people, others, can look at what we're doing right now and have an issue with it because it's not them. But when it was them doing the same thing, oh, it was the right decision because I trust my decision making or our decision making, or I trust what America is and what America was built on. And that's kind of where it comes from. When it's not personal to you, it's easy to criticize. But once you personalize it, if you personalize it, then it should resonate a little bit. And I think that's where we kind of want to shift to the willful ignorance, right? Because I think willful ignorance is a problem.
I was just about to say, I don't understand how you, as a reasonable thinking person, you can look at what's going on today and you can look at what's happening in the past and you can support that but not support what's happening today. It's the same shit.
Because this is America.
Right, but I was right. You're right. I just don't understand that. Like, how can you not realize that it's the same? It's the same situation, just different time.
Remember, a lot of white people didn't care about the civil rights movement until we had the Edmund Pettus Bridge problem. When they saw the white people who did care right out there, and they got attacked and they got treated like black people. So then they were able to personalize it and say, "Oh wow, I could be treated this way too. Oh, we might have a problem here." And similarly with some of the stuff that's going on now with the tear gas into the crowds, the young kids who are trying to care being arrested, it hits people differently. And I spoke about it earlier this week when I was podding by myself. People want to talk about how much of a problem COVID is, but I think COVID is a solution in this country because it's forced us to sit down, stop, consume what's going on, and actually fully digest it without having a busy, full schedule. And not to mention, along with COVID and the protests and riots, a lot of cities still don't want to open up, and it has nothing to do with COVID. They scared of what might happen because there's a bunch of angry people out there. So again, there's more people at home who have to consume what's going on, and that's what I think is waking. This is what I hope. What I think is waking the nation up. I hope. This is me in my positive bag. But let's get back to the willful ignorance, because I think willful ignorance is a problem. And the kind of the Drew Brees thing, I'm not going to spend time talking about Drew Brees because, yeah, Drew Brees said what he said. We need ignorant people to reveal their ignorance so that we can expose their ignorance and expose them for who they are. But also, if you don't get it now, if you don't, or I'm going to say if you don't get it, if you are not trying to get it, I don't think you ever will.
So I'm with you on that to an extent, right? But at the same time, like when I alluded to it earlier, when we talked, because me and you had this conversation, me, you, Wayne, Candice, we all had this conversation about it. All that to me is it alludes back to that cancel culture, right? Which we don't support.
Correct.
Even if you don't get it now, as much as I feel like you should, like everything that's happening right now, why shouldn't you get what's going on? But I'm not gonna completely cancel anybody out. I will still have a conversation. I still think you can learn if you're willing to learn. I don't understand how you don't understand it yet, but we can have this conversation. So I'm not gonna cancel you.
Hey, real quick, I gotta break this up so we can have a little laugh here. Somebody just texted me and said Candice on here looking like a bag of money. So she talk about how her DMs be dry, but just know that I don't believe it.
Candice, they in our DMs for you.
I was about to say that does not prove that my DMs are not still dry. It just proves that yours are popping on my behalf, I guess.
Look, she's just sitting over there smiling, ain't saying a word.
I have not been smiling.
Oh, it was just the dimples. That's what it was.
Yeah, I be looking happy and be mad at the same time. I appreciate that compliment, though.
I get it. I get it. Candice, I get it.
I get it.
So, and Chu, you talk about not canceling people, and you're right. We shouldn't cancel people. We should give them the opportunity to learn, and then after that, I think it's okay. And I don't say we're gonna cancel you, but we're gonna put you over here by yourself, and we ain't gonna listen to you too much. And that poses the question: what do allies look like? One of the reasons why we're having this conversation, in full disclosure, I bumped some people for this conversation with y'all because it was requested for us to come on and talk about this. What do allies look like? What is really an ally? Because I've struggled myself because I've got some white friends in my life. Well, let me take. There are some white people in my life who I considered friends at one point, and when some of this stuff starts happening, the conversation gets weird or it goes away, and it makes me question: do you just think I'm the exception and not one of them? Do you think I'm just black and not a nigga, for lack of better words? You know what I'm saying? And Clarence is back. And then there's other white people in my life who've reached out to me, who've had conversations, and some of those, there's an ongoing dialogue that's been happening for years about what do we do to make this better, and how do we bridge the gap between black and white. And I'm never a person who's against bridging the gap. So here come Clarence with extra noise, and so I asked the question: what does a true ally look like? As I go to the restroom.
I don't think there's a look for an ally. Like it's more, for me, it's more based off of you're around these people, you have these conversations, and there's and I'll say a name for instance, and I'm pretty sure I don't know if she reached out to everybody. I know she reached out to me and Adam, Michaela, and she was like, what can I do to help? For one, she's always been a genuine person to all of us. Well, that I know of. But no, she's always been a genuine person. But and I wasn't surprised when she reached out and asked that question. But everybody's not like that. A lot of people make excuses about for what's going on, or for the people that's doing whatever they're doing, and they'll assume that because I know Chu personally, so he's not like the rest of them. You really don't know that, because when I'm fed up, you don't know what the fuck I'll do. You know?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair too. So are you saying that when you're fed up, you have a different response than where you are now? Are you saying for you, your actions and decisions are based off of how you reach that boiling point? Is that your perspective?
Not really for me. So and we talk about the situation that's going on right now. People rioting and stuff. I'm fed up, right? But the way I'm gonna handle this, the way it's different from the way other people handle it. Do I have a problem with what they're doing? I don't. But would I myself personally go out there and riot? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your comments, there's a gentleman that asked us to look at John Brown and see if he would and reference him as the benchmark for what an ally looks like. And I think in the early 1800s, what John Brown did in the form of being an abolitionist, it's respectable. It's something that, if growing up in that era, I'm confident that everybody that he aided and assisted in pursuing freedom is absolutely appreciative of that. And I think when it comes to taking personal risk to help improve a situation around you, I think that is a strong perspective on what being an ally looks like. The battle that I have when it comes to the ally conversation is really looking at how it's going to, it has to be different for everybody because what everybody brings to the table is different. People with an active, loud platform, I have some names that are floating through my head now. The way that they pursue opportunities to assist by saying, okay, let me show you a good place to donate in order to aid in this, or let me show you a good resource and books to read to help you gain understanding and insight in that. That's a good form of being an ally. The other forms that are out there in reference to the people that are walking the streets and their peaceful protests and taking that approach, all those are good forms of being an ally. For the people that are out there that are built like me, where I have a perspective on what I believe is a good way of supporting and a bad way of supporting, I would say, for me, if you're conversing with me directly, a bad way to support me is to consistently ask me how I'm doing. My answer is not going to change until the situation changes. I'm going to have the same perspective towards the situation until I see my end result. So having to repeat myself and ask the same question, answer the same questions over and over again, that would be not helping my situation. Now, if you have questions and you would like me to help assist your perspective, I can offer that, and I think that would be a good step towards being an ally. Just making sure that if you have a question, you ask by sitting mute and confused. I think for me, those are the good starts.
Yeah, and I agree with you that the ally comes in different phases, right? And I think one of the issues with the ally conversation, oftentimes the people who are asking like, what can I do or what can I do more? A lot of them are doing the right thing already because for one, there's a level of interest there. Okay, got it. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for caring. Cool. But from my experience with the people who I've had those conversations with, they're good people. Like they have their biases, they have their tendencies based on their worldview. No one's perfect, but those people are already living a life that breaks down racial barriers just by being themselves. So to those specific people, I say, just keep being you. Be an example of what it's like, because the person who prompted this question to us, she will be kicking it with all of us, and it's like, hold on, you kicking it with us like this all the time? I mean, you're welcome. You're always welcome here, but like, you're one of one, and it's not like we some bootlicking Uncle Tom types. We gonna let it loose, and you know we have fun on here. But when the microphone is off, we some whole nother niggas out here. You know what I mean? And like, you're really here, living this shit with us. You know what I mean? Wayne, I know you don't use that word, but you know the point I'm making.
Some whole nother.
That's a whole nother.
Some whole nother. We plural whole nother. Yeah.
You did. You did.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm from Cartersville. I'm from Cartersville, baby.
Adam.
What's happening, Rick?
So I want to touch on that point just a little bit, because
I feel like you should, because you have a different perspective, because from who you are and what you've done, white people treat you different.
That's what I'm told. I don't feel it, but that's how it be when, you know,
so the perspective is that white people treat you different. There we go.
Right. That's what I'm talking about, that perspective. So, and that's kind of the whole little conundrum that they, you know, when people be saying, you know, I don't feel when it some of my white friends who be like, you know, there's no such thing as white privilege, but they would say that because they don't really get the difference. So in a lot of cases, I'd be like, you know, I don't get treated differently because that's just the way I've been treated. So you don't know no different. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Although I do understand that, I do see the other side, but I want to touch on it just a little bit from the ally point, because like I have a lot of white friends. I have a lot of white friends on the full spectrum. I have white friends that I grew up with who don't like black people except for the black people that they like. and I'm pretty sure you did from Cartersville.
Yeah.
You probably did
Yeah.
the same thing. And I have white friends who you would swear if you just could close your eyes, hear them talk, and just see them, you would think that they black.
I ain't hang out with them
So,
white people.
well, I hang out with everybody. So, and that's why I wanted to really touch on that
Yes,
part.
you do.
I wanted to touch on that part when you brought it up, just because from an observation point, from me looking out, and I'm like, because Michaela asked me the same thing too, and I told her, I was like, just that willingness to want to do says a whole lot. Figure out what you could do because you get it. You see the picture and you like, man, it's something. Is there something that I could do? And I told her, I said, really, for us coming from here, only thing you really have is your voice. Like when if you want to donate to something or your voice, you want to speak out on something. But out here in Bahrain, it ain't nothing that you can do physically to help the issue because we can't protest really out there because if we protest out here in Bahrain, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, what y'all doing? Like, but at the same time,
Yeah, women out there can barely drive.
right.
Nigga fish fry out there.
So this ally thing, like, I really feel like in a lot of cases though, you have some, and not talking about my friends, it's just talking an observation piece about people that I noticed. You have some who would say, yes, I'm all for it, but then when it come time to be able to speak up and say stuff, they're silent. So really, when you talk about it in a sense, like even what Wayne said, we really wouldn't call it no ally, because the ally thing makes it seem like, if we're actually going out and fighting against something, which we are, but in this case, it's just a lot of people that's silent. So when you have an ally, your ally is not silent. They're gonna speak up and say something, which there's a point that needs to be made where people who they say they are friends and they're gonna do this, and if they with you, they need to stand up and do the same thing that you're doing. But if all your friends aren't really pushing the issue or speaking their voice and going out and doing stuff, that's one thing. But if all 5 of us are fighting the fight, going out there protesting, and all of our friends that are not black and they saying they with us, they are friends, they should be right along with us. That's how I kind of feel. But in a sense, from where I am displaced over here in Bahrain, it's so much that I really can't really speak on and do because I'm so detached.
I feel you.
I want to add.
I think for me,
Go ahead, Wayne.
go ahead. Now you got it.
Okay.
Let's go, Candice. You lady.
So I wanted to add to what Ricky said and then specifically answer what Lee is asking in the comments. Do you think actions speak louder than words? Actions like who we vote for in the fall. I know that's small, but guys like me do look how to support and contribute. I don't think that's a small question at all. I think that's the whole point. And to that point, I think a highly overlooked action that is very valuable to someone who I will call ally in this situation is real introspection. What are my biases? How do I function in those? How do I ignore based on, like my comfort levels or what I prefer? Even people who are good people and usually don't have a problem with anybody can stand and check that because we all have them. This is not just a white issue. We all have biases. We all have things that deserve to be questioned and maybe readdressed and to be done better. And I think having that trait and really developing that in your own space helps so that when you're in space with other people who need their biases checked or challenged, that you might be able to assist in doing that as well. So earlier I sent a video to our group of a guy or a couple that were arguing with they were white and a young 14-year-old guy who was black on a bike. The couple was, admonishing him. I guess something happened where they felt threatened that he was approaching them on the bike. So eventually, my man kept on going. I think he realized this is not a place where I can be and it's going to go well for me. So I'm just going to say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and go on about my way. Like, he took the respectful child action, period. So he just carried on about his business. Another white couple was standing there, younger. They looked probably like millennial age. Just the group that were chastising the young man looked like they might have been in their late 40s or early 50s. The younger couple was basically approaching the older couple like, and what was that you just did? What was the whole problem that you had to approach him like that? So now the boy is gone. These two white couples are in a back and forth about, so why did you have to address him like that? Well, I felt threatened by him. Are you sure you didn't just feel threatened by him because he was black? Was it really about the speed he was going on the bike? Or the fact that he was approaching you? Was it that he was black? No, that's not how I felt. I think you might need to reconsider that. I think you need to shut up. I think you need to go home. This is the sort of dialogue that I think is very valuable between allies and other people. And I think that only happens when you can do that sort of questioning in yourself first.
Right. I don't understand. None of us gonna have the answer to this question. I just don't understand how. I've been in a lot of situations where I'm not by any means from the hood or any of that. I'm not from a bad neighborhood. I've been in bad neighborhoods and I've walked around comfortably. I don't understand how you just walk somewhere and you're threatened by a random person.
Man, look, as somebody, I grew up country.
I'm not.
Cartersville is safe. Cartersville is safe as hell. So for everybody who think that is a safety problem, a gang problem, a violence problem in Cartersville, it don't exist. For the hood niggas in Cartersville, ain't nobody scared of y'all. Y'all ain't gonna do nothing, okay? Just putting that out there. My country self gets dropped in West End Atlanta. Oh boy, this is a little different. It's a little different out here. And guess what? No one ever bothered me because I walk around, I mind my business. If somebody speak, I speak back. Somebody asks for a lighter, I give them a lighter, and we sit there, you have a conversation. I made friends with so many West Enders who the people on campus told us to stay away from because I would always have a lighter in my pocket because I used to smoke Black and Miles. One of the reasons why I smoked Black and Miles for so long because it was a way. No, it was a way to make friends. Because if you got a little smoke on you, somebody be like, "Hey, let me hit that black real quick." You ain't hit my Black Mile. Or even when I smoke Newport, somebody say, "Hey, let me hit a poke." You ain't. I gotta shout you out and go.
I know we serious.
So fast.
I know
but the point of that is to say that it starts a conversation. You get to know people, and what you find out is the people that a lot of people are threatened by in the hood. What's up, J-Bo? They're not actually people who are out to harm civilian, regular people. They only got beef with people who are threatening their livelihood and their lifestyle. So for most of these people who be, I am so threatened, I didn't know what he was going to do to me. Man, it's broad daylight and people got their camera phones. And ain't nobody about to knock you out and rob you. Unless they're the police, that's different. They can get away with it. But a black man, white woman, oh God, no, he going under the jail. But I did all that yelling to say a true ally is no, I wasn't gonna say that. The thing about the ally is also somebody who you can have a conversation with and totally disagree with, and you're terrible. I think your whole mindset is wrong. But because of that, you gain perspective of how other people think. And then if they are open-minded and listen to you, they get perspective on how you think, and then y'all can push forward for freedom and equality. But look, we got to keep it going. We're already an hour in. So on the ally conversation, we got these false prophets, right? We got these people out here who put out things that are counter to productivity. And don't get me wrong, a lot of us can disagree about the method in which we reach our common goal. That's fine. I'm okay with that. There are some people who are more Malcolm. There are some people who are more Martin, and I'm somewhere in between both of them. I ain't as wild as Malcolm, and I ain't as let's shake hands and be friends as Martin. Not gonna be that. But there are other people who are out here who are against us, but they look like us, and they get paraded around, and people allow them to speak for us, like your Candice Owens of the world. Anytime something controversial happens, she got something to say. And when she has something to say, understand she's Candice. She ain't Candice. You know, we ain't shooting her. We got Candice right here. But what Candice does is Candice does with her stupid ace. She'll put some message out that's counter to black people, that's detrimental to our progress. And then the conservative white take it and say, see, this is how they think. This is what they're saying. How come y'all can't agree with her? Y'all look alike. Man, her hair brittle. But her hair is not healthy. Go look at any video.
Because I don't know where else I would share this. Somebody said it looked like my girl washed her hair with Irish Spring.
Okay, people. All right.
She washes her hair every day with bar soap and put a Neutrogena in it.
Adam.
Okay,
come on now. All right. So
rebrand.
Wayne, let him finish. Wayne, let him finish.
No.
It's been enough.
That's not the move.
It's not.
All right,
but
so
it's my fault. I should have said that.
It ain't. You started that, Candice.
You started that barbecue business.
I apologize.
That's the motherfucking things you get.
Uncouth.
all right, so in reference to let me transition this way, Adam. For me, I'll close as far as my piece on the ally thing. Consistency is key. Be a genuine person, be consistent, be who you are. Don't have a conversation with me publicly that's different than what you're having with someone else privately, and vice versa. I think that'll get us a long way. As far as the transition to the lady whose name shall not be mentioned by me, her whole perspective in the George Floyd scenario is one where it's an example of irresponsible platform employment. Just because you have an audience, it doesn't give you that right to paint a picture that has nothing to do with the scenario in defense of your political objectives. So I don't know if you want to take some time, Adam, and kind of break down her synopsis, or do you want to just go right into our points?
So I'll frame it like this. Essentially what that lady did, the lady with the hair, okay, what she did was she pretty much brought out all the negative things about Mr. Floyd and said that I don't know why we're painting him as a Martin Luther King, as we're painting him as a martyr. And she used his past transgressions to discredit the momentum of the movement that happened as a result of his death. And my immediate response to that is nobody is painting him as the freedom fighter himself. We are using the situation in which he passed away as a launching point to continue this fight that we've been impotently fighting for years, to actually try to make some action in the community. And the reason why I call her a false prophet, because she again tries to be the counterbalance to black culture, to the liberal black left, to say, hey, no, let me add some reason to what's going on here. But what she does is she always cuts the legs out from under us and weaken what we're trying to fight for. Because again, nobody's painting George Floyd as a saint. But it doesn't matter if he's a saint, a sinner, or a killer. I'm going to say a killer. The way that our justice system is set up is that you get the opportunity to see a judge and a jury. And then if they decide they want to execute you, then you go see the executioner. But no, she wants to say that we're rallying around this guy as a great person. It doesn't matter about him being a great person or a bad person. It doesn't matter who he is or what he's done. We have a process that's supposed to go a certain way. And for people who look like us on this podcast, that process doesn't work for us the same way that it works for others. I'm done now. Jabari, please stop being a distraction. I love you and I miss you. Good to see you, my friend.
It doesn't though. Yeah.
So, all right.
I just want to say real quick.
I hate this history thing.
I just want to say real quick.
No, you got it.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick. Just touching on that before y'all continue down that road. One of the things that made this so bad, and the reason why it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, is because other than all the shooters that we've had on national like that was publicized and put out, this was one of the first times where you could see the whole process, where you have a man detained and you have him down and he's like stable and not moving, and now he's begging for his life, telling you he can't breathe, he's hurting all over, and then you just see a man like continuously put his knee in the back of this man's neck, and you can see the life leave this man's body. That's one of the first times that I've seen. I don't know if it's ever been like that before, but where it was such a long process. And I think that's part of the reason why it was the straw that broke the camel's back.
But what's crazy, right? I mean, this is the same conversation me, Wayne, Adam, Candice, we've had this conversation. Is you know, when you sign up for this, it's to protect and serve, right? It's 3 other people watching. It's 3 other officers watching what's happening, and they don't feel like what's happening is wrong. You're hearing somebody say you can't breathe, he can't breathe, and you don't feel like it's wrong. You don't feel like it's your place to step into that.
Yeah,
that bothers me.
and that's that social responsibility platform. It's what am I willing to do to make sure that I'm on the side of what's right? That's the idea of being an ally as well. What am I willing to do to stay on the side of what's right? Yes, I have a partner in this business. However, this business partner of mine is absolutely out of control with their actions. What am I willing to do to stay on the side of what's right? And what's right is making sure that what I'm here to do is what I'm doing. The idea of protect and serve, the idea of enforcing my laws versus enforcing the oath that I swore to are 2 different ball games. And I think that that's where that community of people got it mixed up. Adam, you posed a question to us as a collective about the racially motivated police brutality being a myth, right?
Oh yeah, no. I didn't
hear what
that
homegirl is saying.
That girl said that. The girl with the hair.
She did. She is the one who said that.
Yes.
I just can't allow you to associate my name with that question.
No. Because if you'd have never sent me that video, I'd have never heard that statement. Therefore, I'm pointing at you because I don't listen to that human. But for the purpose of working with you with this scenario, I'm gonna answer the question, right?
Yeah, you lucky I rebranded.
So, as far as the racially motivated police brutality being a myth, I would ask anyone to take a look at the driving forces behind the stop and frisk rule that's here in New York City. And then I would say, can you take that rule and match it up with the statement of racially motivated police brutality? Stop and frisk in and of itself is a very invasive process. You are automatically invading a person that you profiled, racially profiled. You're looking at them, you're making an assessment, you're reading their body language, you're stepping into their personal space on the assumption based off of what they look like that they have done something wrong and they've committed a crime. The idea of being
criminals look like black people.
Officer. Say that again.
Criminals look like black people apparently.
I feel some kind of way about that statement. Um,
That was the point.
but I understand what you're poking at. So at the end of the day, though, it's her message is exclusive. She's looking at her bubble for how she walks this earth, for the people that she communicates with. I know life inside of Stamford, Connecticut, and the University of Rhode Island and its alumni. I know it's different. I know around the University of Rhode Island and Warwick and a couple of other areas that are there, they have some issues that look like what we face in the urban media. But for the most part, her demographic, her bubble, the circle that she keeps, it probably isn't an issue. But I think for the vast majority of people that grow up in various communities, especially urban communities, it's a problem. It's an area of concern. And I would use stop and frisk in the New York City regulation that is they're allowed to execute in some capacity as the foundation for saying her reality is shaded.
So with that, Wayne, as somebody who's in New York, how do you feel about the way that de Blasio is handling things right now?
I feel a lot of different ways about it. I have people on both sides of it. The job that I have here as a Marine, the Marines that I work with, a lot of them are on both sides of it. From friends and associates who have parents that are standing out there in the evenings enforcing the regulations that are in place. De Blasio is doing what he feels is in the best interest of the people. I think the people of the city have a responsibility to look at his choices and his actions and choose who they're going to vote for when it comes time for re-election. For me, I believe that the bottom dollar has always been a priority here in New York. It's never about the people. It's about how much money we can get out of the people. So if he's looking at this like a businessman, then he's just trying to make sure he can capitalize on opportunity. If it's about regulating the streets and keeping people safe, I don't know if that's the best approach. So I don't have a specific stance on it. I can say that it's not the way that I would do it.
Fair enough, but back to police brutality being a myth, I just think that's crazy. I think that's wild. And when you have somebody again who looks like us saying stuff like that, it's toxic and problematic, because when you're speaking to a certain crowd who doesn't already identify with people like us, when they choose to identify, they're going to find somebody with similar belief set as them. And because she has a similar belief set, they take what she said as black gospel, and in truth, it is black blasphemy.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were looking for that one person to speak that have the same views that they have, so they can say, "Oh, well, this black person feels this way." But what I wanted to say is going back to man, Adam, me, you, Wayne, well, all of us, we've been around for a long time. But one of the things that stuck with me, I've got a lot of good knowledge from Wayne, but one of the things that stuck with me was when he told me, he was like, when I go somewhere and I start working there and I talk to the people that are working under me, and I tell them, if you can't tell me no, I don't trust you. That stuck with me since that day, Wayne. And that ties back into when I brought up the point about with George Floyd, how the other three was just around. It's not really telling you no, but it's telling you that what you're doing is wrong. And that,
and I'm with you, man. And I think it boils down to accountability, man.
Yeah.
It boils down to accountability. When I look at whether it's a fellow service member, whether it's some people that I hang out with on the weekends, whether it's family, whoever it is, it boils down to accountability. And if I'm out of control, you say you respect me as a person, or you say you got love for me as a brother, whatever the case may be, when you see me out of line, the expectation is that you say something to me and address me. And if you can't say something to me and tell me that I'm out of line, we can't hang out. We just can't do it. If Adam has a perspective and I don't agree with it, I will share with him that I don't agree with it. He will respond back with whatever statement he has to make. And then from there, we make a decision on whether or not we want to continue to keep engaging or if we want to cut it off. But
Okay.
if you can't look at another person and say how you feel about a situation, you're probably in the wrong company.
Wayne, that's funny because I was really ready to go in on that Monique Amy Schumer thing yesterday, and I just knew I was running my head into a wall. But I just passionately feel that Monique was offered a fair deal from Netflix because don't nobody want to hear what she got to say at this point in her career. And the points that you were making were very valid points. And I was just like, look, I don't like Amy Schumer. I think she sucks. But I see what type I see who she is. I see what she brings. And Monique didn't have the track record to bring it. But away from that argument, it was like, okay, we've had this argument before months ago, probably over a year ago. We're about to have it again and make the same points. Let's just change the subject. But as friends, we have to know that we can.
Candice is probably the queen of changing the subjects in my conversation too.
Huh?
Yeah.
I said Candice is the queen of changing the subject in the conversation. I was like, all right, that's the end of that topic. Next button.
She do it so good. She do it gracefully though.
But it's literally for the same reason. Like we already know where we at. And like I've said to Wayne before, if it's not gonna be wise for the total well-being of this person over here to go back and forth with you on that, we good. We good.
And that type of interaction, Adam, Rick, Chu, Candice, I think that's what's vital to society today. We have to be able to engage, converse. Once we know where one another stands, we can disengage. We can start somewhere else. But we have to be willing to engage. And as long as we're willing to engage and have conversation to share different perspective, which we're all entitled to, I think that gets us a step closer to success.
Yes.
And that's what I say before you caviar, real quick. Before Adam caviars appropriately, since he's in charge here. I just want to say I agree with Wayne's point there 100%. I want to re-emphasize that I really believe the root to being able to have that sort of interaction with someone where you're willing to hold someone else accountable is being able to be that kind of accountable with yourself. So if you are Candice Owens and you have a platform that people listen to often and buy into and are basing their thoughts about a whole group of people based on, please carry yourself to therapy. You can keep
accountability.
I agree with that 100%. I agree.
Absolutely, Candice, because accountability is so important. And a lot of times Chu gets stuck as being my accountability partner because by the time it's late at night, West Coast time, y'all sleep. But Chu is up. And I'll start talking to Chu, right? And it can be about anything, like, because again, I have open dialogue, especially with Wayne, Chu, Candice. I'm talking to y'all like all day, every day. So we're very aware of what's going on in each other's lives. So, I'll shoot Chu a little something. And Chu will be like, hey, you remember what we talked about? You remember what you said? And it's like, yeah, that's why I'm telling you what I'm doing right now. So I know me. I just need somebody to talk to me a little bit. And, I'll be like, all right, yeah, you're right. And so when you have a good accountability system, you use it, and then they should hold you accountable. And if people don't hold you accountable, you got to get rid of them.
I'll say one thing to caveat into what you was just saying. I don't feel like I get stuck with the responsibility, right? like with all y'all, not just y'all, but specifically with all y'all right now. We all got relationships, right? We're all friends. I actually look at y'all like family. So when you say that, I get stuck with, listening to what you got to. It's not really me getting stuck with it because we built that relationship, right? So this is what's expected. This is what I feel like I owe you. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
This is where Chu's motivational plug comes from. He got it deep in him. It's coming out. The book coming. I don't know what it's gonna be called, but look for it.
That hits right up, bro.
It's deep down. It's deep down. But look,
yeah.
Hey, Q, He said he really was just to help and caviar and help my boy Adam out. He ain't mean like you stuck. He meant you stuck because you the only one that's up that late at night.
I get that, but at the same time, we understand this, right? This is live, so there are people watching this. So it needs to be understood that I'm not stuck dealing with Adam. That's my dog. So I owe that to
Sharon stuck dealing with me.
the friendship that we have. I owe that to you.
That's fair. So we're here, and I think we've gotten to a good point to totally transition because we talk about accountability, right? And I think accountability is important. And I want to keep it real about Amanda Seales because I don't know if y'all are aware, she just recently left the show, The Real. But let me keep it real with Amanda first. About a year ago, this whole black men don't cheat thing started, and it became like a popular thing. And she was like, why are we celebrating this? This is the expectation. Well, yes, the expectation, but obviously it's an issue that's not happening. So let's celebrate it. And then also it became a joke. And I'm like, you're a comedian. How come you can't take a joke? And then I was like, F Amanda Seales, hashtag toxic masculinity, hashtag toxic 365. You all knew that toxic masculinity was a joke about toxic masculinity. It was never promoting true toxic masculinity. But what happened with that, there came, she responded and she aired me out. And with that, I got some pretty dirty DMs, which I was here for all that smoke. I enjoyed the back and forth with her fans. And I was really looking forward to the back and forth with her, but I lost my Instagram. And then I couldn't use Instagram. I could not use the Instagram app on my phone for like 3 months because of that instance. But what it made me do, it was like, let me rethink what I'm trying to do with my platform. Let me think about the responsibility that I owe my followers, the people who subscribe to my podcast, who subscribe to me on social media. What do I owe those people? And for one, I'm not here to troll for the sake of trolling. I'm all for hopping in comments, all for having a back and forth if there is a fruitful conversation that can come of it. Also, I don't ever want to go viral because how many viral people actually build up a platform that allows them to continue being productive without doing viral type activity? And then it also made me look at the toxic masculinity thing. I don't regret making the joke. I don't regret making the shirts. But what I do understand is that the context gets lost because so many people don't understand that, hey, I'm not talking about Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby toxic. I'm talking about future toxic. I'm talking about you going to talk all this shit about me and tell me I'm toxic, but you going to keep coming back. Or if you ain't here yet, you see it and you like it. So I'm making fun of you because you're going to call me toxic, but you're going to let me put this toxic all in you. You know what I'm saying? So that's where that came from. And I just wanted to say to her and that in that interaction, it made me totally rethink my brand and what I'm trying to promote and how I go about, more so than how I go about promoting it, because I see her, she's unapologetically Amanda. And I can disagree with what she says. I disagree with a lot of what she says. But again, most of the people that I don't like them because I see a lot of myself in them and I be hating. So when I see that she walked away from the Real after 6 months, and thank God I didn't go on the Real when I had the opportunity to go and get VIP and meet her. Glad I didn't do that. But I look at her walking away from the Real and she just pretty much said, I can't be real on the Real. So I got to go. And I respect that so much. And I think as Black people, we, again, going back to some stuff we talked about earlier, we always want to be incorporated into mainstream society. And especially with TV, you got these program directors and these executives who don't know what people want to hear. They just want to be safe and they don't want to upset advertisers. So they create shows that could be better. And we look at content that doesn't work on TV, but it works on podcasts. Look at Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. All the smoke that goes up. But who would have ever said you get two basketball players who like to cuss and like to smoke weed, and they'll have a popular podcast, and then one of them will end up becoming one of the preeminent voices of this black movement that we're fighting right now, and he's on everybody's show talking the stuff that people want to hear. So I say that to say that as black people, we have to start creating our own lanes. We have to stop trying to be a part of mainstream culture, because we can build the following. People want to hear us. And once I show you I can get these numbers, you're going to have to send me your advertising dollars, because the crowd is here. So instead of wanting to be on the reel, even Jason Whitlock, who walked away from FS1, I'm not a Whitlock fan, but he's like, you know what? I'm trying to create content straight to consumer without the network in the middle. And the things I've been talking to you all about the media platform that I'm trying to create, but equal rights, something that we talk about. I want equal rights on this platform. And I think it's so important for us to start carving our path so that we don't have these people who are telling us, no, you can't do that. Nobody wants to hear it. Yes, they do. The streets want it raw. All right. So let's just talk about.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
Yo, you was deep in your bag on that one, bro.
I had to, man, because it's hard for me to say that to acknowledge to somebody who I be hating on.
And it was like we talk about it, and I had posted something the other day when I was like, just be genuine with people, right? People see through the bullshit. The rant that you just went on, right? It was a genuine ass rant, and I supported 100%.
I appreciate your support, you.
So Adam, that was a thank you then to Amanda Seals.
Yes, that was a thank you. Thank you, Amanda Seals.
Candice so petty, bro.
Candice, just know if I hadn't rebranded, I would shoot you a bird right now.
She's so petty, dog. She just wanted to hear you say that, dog.
No, I'm just really petty for a cause, because low key I have felt like and never said until now, kind of similar to this idea you having critique of Charlemagne, but y'all being very similar. Like low key, you and Amanda needed to have the conversation that y'all didn't have because y'all should.
I think the problem was, obviously we have the connection to Adam, right? So if somebody comes at your friend, you're gonna side with them. Yeah. And I don't think he was wrong. I don't think he was wrong in that situation, but I also think there was a conversation that should. Yeah. Stupid. But I think there was a conversation that could have been had that would have been conducive for both sides.
Yeah.
It wasn't gonna happen.
I think the challenge that's there though, Chu, is that in order to have that conversation, the other party, you have to be able to get their attention. And for that particular woman, the way to get her attention isn't always with flowers. If Adam would have dropped some flowers, I doubt if there'd have been any acknowledgement of the post. It would have been one of the 1.5 million posts that's in the DMs, right? But that person historically responds to negativity. Right.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Now, you got it though, Adam. What was you about to say?
What's even worse though is right when that person responds to negativity, what happens? And then you got all these other people that come in, the people that were filling his DMs up, that don't know the situation. They're just going off, oh, I like her. He's talking shit about her. So I'm finna jump in his shit and just go at him. Not knowing the situation, not even trying to have the conversation. But that's that cancel culture shit.
And I appreciate her female fans for standing up for sis, but still to the dudes who hopped in my DMs talking about I don't understand this queen and I can't even touch the hem of her garment. I still, what I told them, I still stand on that. She ain't gonna get him no love because they out here caping for her. Nah. F them too. Rebrand.
I cannot.
But if y'all don't have any more thoughts
Right.
about Amanda, we're at 1 hour 30, and this next topic I think is going to be a topic that can go for a little minute, but I think it's an important topic, and the important piece about it is we have 2 Division I athletes below us. We have 2 HBCU graduates.
Hello,
myself and Candice.
former Division I athlete. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, whatever.
There's
And then
nothing.
we also have Wayne. We also have Wayne who had the opportunity to run track in college at Delaware State, if I'm correct, right, Wayne? Where was you about to go run track at?
Where I was planning to go and where I ended up on the same thing. I never went to college straight out of high school. I had a different transition.
No, I said
yeah, that was the intent. That was the
no,
move.
I said you had an opportunity.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is a pertinent conversation for us, and with these different race conversations that are out here now. For one, it just took me to today to realize that Chew wears that TB hat because his name is Travis Bush, by the way.
What you're not gonna do is try to play me.
I'm not. No, it was not. It's dope. I just never put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I like the color scheme, and I also like the acronym. So
I'm sure. The acronym. There we go. But anyway, so there's a big push to say, hey, top end athletes, you need to go to HBCUs. So for me, I say yes and no. I think it would be nice to see some top end athletes go to HBCUs. But I think more so we should direct it towards basketball players, because basketball is a sport that still generates income for the school, but also the top end players, very little of their college experience actually matters. If you are a top recruit as a high school senior and you're a one and done guy, as long as you go to college and you look good, it doesn't really matter where you go as much, as long as you get to show the flashes against the high-end players or the high-end teams. Whereas in football, you're in school for 3 years, and I think where you go is very important to your development and the stamp that you get. I can't tell a young DB, don't go play for Nick Saban, because that's going to be the best DB coaching that you can get. And the difference between you playing for the difference between you going to Alabama and Auburn can be first and third round, or you going to Alabama and a Pac-12 school or Big 12 school is second and fourth round, second and fifth round. So how can I tell you to go to a school that doesn't have the infrastructure, that doesn't have the coaching, and I hurt your chance to become another black millionaire? So I'm going to pitch it to Rick first, because I think I want to hear Rick's perspective on this. How do you feel about people trying to now push high-end black athletes towards HBCUs? And talk about kind of where you were at in your recruiting process and what made you choose the school that you chose.
Okay, yeah. So I think.
Oh. Hold on, Clarence. We can't hear you.
Okay.
You good, Rick? Go ahead.
Okay, my bad. I said, so first off, I love the idea. In a perfect world, it would be awesome on the football. I'm talking football first off. It would be awesome for a lot of the top black athletes to go to HBCUs. But like you said, one of the major things that hurt is the resources at those HBCUs, because everybody know HBCUs is known in the football sense is a halftime show. And a lot of us, for athletes, we trying to get in the spotlight, because the spotlight is what's going to be able to showcase your talents on a consistent basis for these NFL scouts and all that. But on the same token, you do have this sense of where if you have what it takes to play at the next level, you can get noticed anywhere. And if you are the reason why I say in a perfect world it'll be awesome to have, because if you are a top athlete and you go to one of these HBCUs, the scouts that saw you in high school, they're gonna be looking at you wherever you go. So if you do go to Howard, Delaware State, South Carolina State, Alabama State, Georgia Southern, I mean not Georgia Southern, sorry. What was
Oh,
it?
bad.
But if you go to Morehouse, even all of them, they with the ones where the resources and the coach is not there, but that's gonna build it up though. So it's a gamble. For one, it is a gamble, and I think that's one of the gambles that it will take for more resources and better coaches with better opportunities. I'm not even gonna say better coaches, because there's some good coaches at the HBCUs, but they're limited in their resources with the technology and all the money that they could have to enhance their programs.
Right.
So if they had that, if they had those caliber athletes, then now they will generate more money and publicity and all of that. So it would be something awesome to see. And now for me on my journey, of course, we wasn't in a time in 2006 like it is today, but Georgia Tech and Navy was my last two that I was going to go to. But after I committed to Navy, I went on a visit to Tuskegee.
Ah,
And
Tuskegee.
so the
West.
And they don't do that. They don't do that, y'all. So
the coach McCall, he reached out to me and was like, "Man, I know you committed to Navy, but I want you to come on a visit so you can see what life is like here." And so, in the middle of the basketball season, we have a game on a Saturday. So I went down. My uncle took me down. We went down there, and I enjoyed the experience. I had a good time around a bunch of black folks, which I didn't experience before in my visit process, and it was a good time. But compared to, and even like the goal for me when I was in high school was to go to the NFL, and choosing Navy wasn't in the limelight of going me on the track to go to the NFL. I still chose Navy because of the opportunities beyond football. So I took a step back from the NFL because I did know, I was like, if you got what it takes to go to the NFL, you can make it to the NFL. So that was one of the main things. So I was like, okay, Navy is going to be the best route, and the reason why I'm gonna go to Navy is because of the opportunities and the guaranteed job after football. So I chose Navy for that. But today's world, I mean, I would love to see a lot of these guys go to some of the HBCUs to help the HBCUs and to send a message.
I think my first problem with like I said, I agree with it. I think it would be good in the perfect world if that happened. But the quote that I sent you, my first issue was when they said parents should pull their kids from these PWIs and send them to HBCUs to play sports. So my first problem with that is when I made the decision that I made, right, my parents, they left that up to me. I'm sure they had their opinions, but they left it up to me to choose where I wanted to go. Um, didn't I say that? I mean, I think I ain't gonna say I think I know that the decision that I picked is what they wanted me to pick, but they never choose. So when you say at that point, 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, yeah, it's still a child, or it's still your kid, but at the same time, you can say you're gonna pull them out, but if they don't want to leave, you gonna tell me to leave the school just because you want me to go to HBC?
Yeah, Mo Williams shouldn't have let the parents pull them out because the parents can't pull them out.
Exactly. At the same time, in my situation, right, wasn't really highly recruited. No HBCUs offer me anything. So where am I going? I got a school that's offering me a free education and a job after the fact, and then I'm gonna leave that and go to a school that has no interest in me.
And part of the reason too, though, when HBCUs see recruits, they look like, they look at a recruit. Okay, he probably won't want to come here. Cause like I saw in the media, the kid, Mikey Williams, he didn't start getting offers to HBCUs until he said he was considering it.
Hey, look, Morehouse just offered him. Here's what we got to do, Coach Brewer. Here's what you need to do. You need to reach out to QC, holler at Quavo and them. Let Quavo them in LA. Y'all go down to Southern California. He played at San Ysidro, damn near on the border. He played for a Compton AAU team. Spend some time with Quavo, Offset, Takeoff and them. We give him a QC chain, right? And then we give him the Morehouse hat, baby. You come on to the house. Come on!
It sounds good, but you can't do that. So you can't do that, brother. You can't do that,
but I can do it because I'm not affiliated with the school.
You still they can't take gifts, bro. What are you doing?
We ain't giving no gift. We just
take a gift to that young man. He just would be.
You can't give him.
You can't hang out with people. Is not a gift. That's an experience.
Just take the hat out. It's fine.
Yeah, no hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yo.
And we'll sign you the QC as a rapper and then give you the chain. So then you just don't never put out no album. It's all good.
Another question I have, right? So one of the issues, and Rick, you probably went through the same thing. So, like I said, didn't have a lot of offers, and a lot of the schools didn't offer me. Like a lot of HBCUs didn't come at me because I would go to a bigger school, right? If you feel that way, what do you have to lose by giving me an offer, by sending me an offer? If I don't accept it, you don't lose that. So what do you have to lose by that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I ain't got something to say.
And yeah, I think that's part of the battle right there, right? If you aren't offering me anything, it has me feeling one of two ways. Either I'm not on your radar or I'm not what you're looking for. If I am on your radar, I'm on these humans' radar. That's kind of how human nature works, right? Somebody's giving you attention, you pay attention to who's giving you attention. So if you're not talking to me, even though I kind of may want to go there, I'm not going to go ahead and start reaching out to you when I have 30 other people begging for my attention. Like I'm not I'll hold that one. But you don't chase after the thing that's running away from you. Typically, when you have something sitting right here waiting on you,
that's not true. A lot of women do that.
Your environment has to dig in.
Look, I knew Adam was finna jump into it.
Hey, I tried my best not to say it. I
knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah, he had to bite. Had to. That's the part of it.
But you know what? I can get rid of one more button, baby.
No, keep that button, sir.
Look here, Candice.
That's the heart of it, though, Adam.
Hey, accountability.
I think the HBCU community has to be willing to step out there and say, "Hey, we see you, young warrior, and we want you." It's kind of that Mo Williams approach, right? Mo Williams is like, "Hey, as a basketball coach down here, I can do for you what they can do for you over there." And if you get down there and you start winning games, you're winning games. The media is going to pay attention to you. You're a highlight reel. Sports Center is going to catch you. You just got to go somewhere and play. The media will show up and you play the game.
And you know the thing about the thing about basketball that makes it work so easily is that, for one, these basketball networks are so tight, right? One of my friends, he plays overseas, but when he's in Atlanta, the Atlanta Basketball Network, they all are hooping together. So whichever NBA guys are in Atlanta or freshly retired NBA guys, they all hoop together at the same gyms. In LA, everybody's at UCLA. So it doesn't matter if you're out there in them gyms and you're giving those guys good run, they're going to talk about you. There's going to be videos that leak out. There's going to be conversation that leaks out. And that's why I think the basketball approach is important for HBCUs, because basketball, it's an easier transition with the lack of infrastructure that's there. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree with you. Yeah.
So, but I also say it was weird going to Morehouse, and for one, we're D2, so it's a little bit different than the D1 schools. But some of the better athletes, just pure athletes, didn't play sports because the athletic program didn't offer. I mean, if you ain't got no Nike deal, I can't even get no cool gear, and y'all got practice during Hump Wednesday, and like I'm on the borderline of playing. I'd rather go to Hump Wednesday, have my flask in my pocket, out here being social, than be at stinking football practice. And we got to go to Russell.
That's a different conversation, though, man. That's a matter of personal preference and what you went to. If you serious about your brand, if you know who you are as a competitor and what you bring to the table, you're gonna get out there and you're gonna work wherever you are. And I think that's the beauty of talented players. Sometimes
it's the reason why
the
Oregon
coach's
gets
role
players.
is really just to get some, huh?
There's a reason why people go to Oregon, and it's Nike gear.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you have that perspective. I'm not even gonna try to touch it. I'm just gonna say, if you serious about your brand, you can take on that heavy hitter role at any type of place, and you'll make your noise, you'll get your numbers, you'll impact the team, and your reputation will be out there.
Agreed. Where did you go? Where did you go? So I'm just so happy to have y'all here together. I thought that it was important. And let's just hit some of the major takeaways of the conversation, right? For me, you know, there's a false perception of America. And I won't even say a false perception. I think that the perception of America for Black people, people of color, people who have different beliefs than mainstream WASP beliefs, we see our country in one light. And typically those who aren't oppressed and aren't empathetic to the oppressed people, they see the country in another light. Oh, yeah, no, before we wrap it up, quick question. I forgot. I should have hit this earlier. The Jake Fromm piece, right? I don't want to get into whether Jake Fromm was right, wrong, or indifferent about what he said.
Oh, he actually
but how do you feel about, huh?
I didn't see what he said. What did he say?
He said something about having guns for white elites and all of that stuff, but it was in a text conversation that ended up getting leaked on Twitter. The girl was like, you know what, with all this stuff that's going on, I just feel like people need to know that he said this. How do you all feel about private conversations, no matter how good or bad they are, being leaked publicly? Wayne got the face.
Yeah, let him go.
My whole conversation is, there are some things that you want to have private, right? Like if I come to Candice or Rick or Chu and I say, hey, between you and I, these are some things that I want to discuss and converse about, and I need this to stay with us. That's one thing, right? Sometimes I'm just trying to get some stuff off my chest. The other times it's, me seeking some perspective in order for me to adjust my thoughts. Other scenarios where we're in a group text and I'm just dropping my thoughts, my perspective, own what you're saying, own what you're talking about. There are conversations that I'll have with Tony that I expect to stay between me and Tony, and the conversation that I would have with Adam that I'm like, I'm okay if Adam shares this information. It's about what it is that you and that person, where y'all are as a group. If I'm dropping stuff in the group text and we're having that conversation, let it go public. If I wanted to stay between you and I, then I put it directly to you. If you choose to take something that I gave directly to you and make it go public, I have to own my statements and conversation, even if I don't like it. But once I give it to you, you're free to do what you want with it.
Candice?
But
go ahead, Rick. Go ahead, Claire.
I was gonna say, sometimes when you talking, so like whatever Jake Fromm said, I would venture to say he said it thinking that it was gonna stay there. Because sometimes in some group messages, you'll probably say some stuff and you have an expectation that it's gonna stay in that group. But that's where it falls on you, and it comes back to owning what you're saying. But you need to know the folks that you discussing stuff with, because sometimes people don't be for you like that. They're not really an ally. They an ally in some sheep's clothing. Yeah. I mean, in a wolf, like they're
sheep in wolf clothing. Reminds me of somebody else I know.
So what they doing is they was waiting to out Jake from. Whatever he said, I mean, it might not have been that great, and that might fall to it ain't on the same kind of spectrum as what Drew Brees said, because he probably didn't say that in no closed forum. But
interview.
But like what you said too, Wayne, it goes back to the conversation what you said about accountability. In a sense, with that accountability, you got to know these people. If they ain't really holding you accountable, if they holding you accountable, they gonna address it to you and say something. Hey man, such. But if they ain't really fucking with you like that, then they gonna leak this stuff and put you out there to dry. And now you got to fend for yourself to the public, which is not your intention.
And before I go to Candice, I think the problem is he's a freshly drafted guy. She's a young lady. I'm not going to assume why she leaked the information, but I got a hunch. And it's probably because he ain't trying to hunch no more. Y'all know I ain't PC. I rebranded though. Candice?
Hey, you ain't lying, bro.
Yeah, you know.
I am not touching the reason why. I'm not.
That's fine. I touched the reason why. That's fine.
Yeah.
Only I that they didn't.
You did touch it. So I think the thing is that I receive that what Wayne is saying, whether anyone desires to agree with it, is practically true. Like in real life, people can always do whatever they want to with whatever you share with them. So once it's out of my mouth, it is, essentially open information to the public. I think to Ricky's point, the only real responsibility or the only real preventive measure you have in trying to censor yourself is either to A, just be quiet altogether, or B, manage who it is that you're sharing information with and make sure that you feel whatever appropriate level of trust with that person. And then in the end, the other responsibility you have on the back end is to own what you said, like Wayne said.
Agreed.
Non-disclosure agreement when you get rich is an option too.
Say that again?
You hear me, Candice? The non-disclosure agreement, the NDA, I think once you get to a certain level of wealth for the people in your circle, you might want to take some notes from those that have dug in the Bayhive community. You sign an NDA if we're gonna kick it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all. Once I start getting advertising money, all y'all sign NDAs.
I think we're all probably gonna need an NDA on each other. Everybody gonna need everybody to have NDAs. So
yeah,
look forward to it.
That's
and
cool.
I'm not offended by it.
We say a lot of shit in amongst each other. We say a lot of shit. So,
and so that's another thing. We all say enough stuff that we don't necessarily need NDAs, because if every one of y'all try to out me,
motherfucker, you in the conversation.
Everybody out.
Hey, if somebody get in that butt equal rights, boy, it's over.
over. Look, I got another one called The Locker Room. It's called The Locker Room for a reason.
Right.
But if they get the locker room. But anyways, enough of that. Lastly. So I think there's been here in America, there's definitely been a more of a push to celebrate Juneteenth. And I've personally taken it upon myself to push the Juneteenth celebration, not because I'm so woke and enlightened, but because I have great people around me who say things. And when people around me say great things, I say, hey, I'm taking this. And then I take it. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you I'm taking it. And you feel how you feel about it, because if I think it's good, I'm going to run with it. If you want credit, you get credit. If you don't, I'm going to run with it. So Wayne, you brought up a great point when we were talking about the Blackout Tuesday thing. And you were like, all right, yeah, whatever, Blackout Tuesday, woo. But how about we actually make some change? And you were like, how about, I'm looking at not patronizing the 4th of July and putting more of an emphasis on Juneteenth. I personally took that, ran with it. There's some things going in my hometown, Cartersville, celebrating Juneteenth, but also here in Monterey, where I'm at, we're working on putting together a Juneteenth celebration. And for the 4th of July, I'm gonna treat it like another day off. I ain't saying I ain't gonna drink beer. I ain't saying I ain't gonna eat because that's crazy. I do that most weekends. But I'm not gonna be doing it in celebration of the holiday. So Wayne, what got you to that point? And just speak about that really quickly before we call it a day.
So for me, I think the piece that pushed me there the most is when it comes to looking back over our history, the things that have made the most impact when it comes to our relevance is what it is that we bring to the table. We celebrate hard, we enjoy life greatly, and we do so at the expense of our own bank accounts. We don't take many precautions when it comes to enjoying ourselves. And the holiday is one of those scenarios where we do that. We will spend money on food, liquor, whatever the case may be, to bring people together, or ginger ale, depending on what you drink. You'll spend the money to get the people together, to have a good time, to celebrate, right? And in so doing, it's a major boost to the economy. When most of the people I know get together, we're not getting together with 4 or 5 people. We got a neighborhood of people hanging out in the backyard, and we're having a great time, and it's not cheap. If anybody actually looked at those receipts, you realize that you done spent a couple of $1,000s on hosting an event to get people together. That's just in my circle. I know that thing spreads throughout the nation. If we decided to take a little bit of our income and just keep it to ourselves on major days like that where the market explodes, that's another space for our voice to be heard as far as our relevance and our place in the community. And I think that for me, if it's about making sure you know that I exist, for those that don't believe I do, I know how to impact what's important to you, and that would be your dividends.
I think that's a great way to close out. Y'all got anything else to say?
I got something to say. Ain't got nothing. I appreciate what Wayne just said, but what I got to say is I appreciate all y'all. I love y'all. We've not, me and Ricky didn't know each other for a little while, but the rest of the group, it's probably been about a year now. I get a lot of knowledge from all of y'all, so I definitely appreciate that. And I don't think I say it enough to the people that I'm close to, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks, Chew.
We love you too, dog.
Come
Love
on.
you too. All right, so
Since all these other men ain't gonna say it back, we love you too.
oh yeah, you already know, man.
And we get so much from you too. I just want to shine on your example right now. That's strong. That's strong.
Appreciate you, Queen.
So as I get ready to close this out, hey Tony, if you still listening, next month you up, buddy. You up. But
yeah, Tony need to be in this.
Most definitely. But so thank you all for coming on. You know, we have a lot of these conversations privately, and it's important for us to have them publicly. I thank you all for being really like my first true support system in the podcast game. People who listen, had feedback, were willing to come on and continue to work on this journey with me, but also, you know, looking to create something much bigger than just conversations, really trying to create that change. Rick, you got your hand up. You got something before I go? Come on, Clarence.
Appreciate it. I just wanted to say, you know, as a caveat of what Chu was saying, you know, this is very vital, like to the growth of friends. So for everybody else that's out here watching, if you don't have talks like this on an open forum to the public, you know, most of the time we want to get this stuff out here in the podcast so we can touch on issues, but amongst close friends or family members that have open dialogue to help people be more aware in your circle to what's going on in the world and also what's going on with each other. These kind of conversations and stuff like this is vital. So I hope that we continue this and to continue to be an example to have more people in this kind of forum so people can see us as an example to have this kind of dialogue amongst friends, to hit on topics that's going on throughout the world, and then also hit those personal things to help with the mental health of each other.
And I think that's important. It's crazy that mental health is one of the things that really brought us together. So I'm about to sign off. We'll have a quick little breakdown privately before we go, Chew. I see your question in the private chat, just real quick. So thank you all for listening. I'll have this out. I'm gonna cut it up into 2 parts. So y'all listen to the 2-hour pieces, and the Instagram clips will be coming out. Make sure if you're looking for any material that I have, bigbabythegoat.com. You can find any and everything you need. Candice, where can we find the salt of the earth, the seasoned salts?
The salt of the earth is at the seasoned salt on Instagram.
At the seasoned salt on Instagram. I'll be sure to put that in the Hey, Candice, go ahead and drop that in the comments before we sign off so people can find that. Yes. Hey, thank y'all for coming on. I love y'all. Big baby.